Okay, so we are going to be talking about decimals, percents, fractions, conversions. So look at number 1. It says, write this decimal as a fraction, okay? So look to the right, it says 0.25. If we think about 25 cents, how many quarters are in a dollar? That would be 1/4, right? So 0.25 or 25 hundredths is the same thing as 1 out of 4 quarters. And if you don't remember that, then we can read it. That is 25 hundredths. That's 25 out of 100. If you simplify that, they could divide by 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 goes into 100 20 times. Still not simplified. I can divide by 5. And that takes me all the way back to 1/4. Okay? So to convert a decimal to a fraction, I could also go 0.25. I can move my decimal 2 places, make it 25%. Percent literally means 25 out of 100. And then you would just simplify, and it would simplify back down to 1/4. Okay? Number 2, Mr. Knight ate 8/10 of a pizza. How much pizza did he eat as a fraction? Okay, so we have 0.8, or that's 8/10. Okay, his 8/10. If you just said 8/10, that is 8/10. Okay, is that simplified? No, I can divide. If you divide by 2, that is 4/5. Okay, the other way you can look at it, the long way around, 8/10. Have my decimal, I move it 2 places to the right, and I'll get my percent. That'd be 80%. And then 80% percent literally means out of 100. I could simplify. That'd be 8/10. And then I could simplify again, which would be 4/5. You get the exact same fraction. Okay. Next one, number 3. Write this fraction as a decimal. Okay, so you have 3/5. How do I convert it to a decimal? What does the fraction bar mean to do? Divide. Okay, so my numerator is 3 and my numerator always goes inside the house. Will 5 go to 3? No, I will put it 0 times. I have to add a decimal and a 0. Go ahead and bring your decimal straight up so you don't forget it. How many times does 5 go into 30? 6 times. Okay, so write the fraction as a decimal. It would be 6/10. Okay, let's look. We have done decimal as a fraction, fraction as a decimal. Okay, let's go down to number 5. A percent as a fraction. 40%. Percent literally means per 100. There you have it. Simplify. If I divide by 10, the zeros cancel. Now it's 4/10. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay. Number 6 is the exact same way. Let's do number 7. Number 7, it says write the fraction as a percent. Okay, so this would be 2 different ways. Fraction bar means to divide. The top number, numerator, goes in the house. 10 does not go into 8, so add a decimal and a 0. 10 goes into 80 8 times. But I subtract, that will equal 0. Now, I could convert a decimal to a percent by moving my decimal 2 places to the right, which makes it 80%. Okay. The other way to do it is 8/10. If I create an equivalent fraction, I could say that 8 times 10 is 80. 10 times 10 is 100. Why did I do that? Because I knew that a percent meant per 100, and I wanted to get my 10 to 100. So I multiply by 10. What I do on the bottom, I do on the top. Okay. So what I do to my denominator, I do to my numerator, and vice versa. Let's scroll down to number 9. It says write this percent as a decimal. Have 68%. We're just going in the opposite direction that we did before. If there's no decimal, the decimal's hiding out in the back. I move it 2 places to the left. Now my percent is a decimal. It's 68 hundredths, or you could say put that 0 in the front. It's the same thing. Okay. Now let's do number 11. It says write this as a percent. Okay. It's a decimal. I need to move it to the right or to the left to make a percent. Okay, we need to move it to the right. I always move it 2 places. 1, 2. So this is not 50%. It is just 5%. Okay. So for number 12, you're going to do the same thing. And you might have to add a 0. So look, 0.7, I move it twice, 2 times, always 2 times. 1, 2. I don't have a 0 there, so I have to add it. That is not 7%, that is 70%. Okay. Number 13, you can do that. All right, number 14. It says write a percent to represent the shaded portion of the model. Okay, there's 2 ways to approach this. If it gives you multiple choice options, you do it one way, or you can look at it one way. If it doesn't, then you have to work it out. But let's look at it because we have multiple choice options. Okay. So if I look at this, I can see that if I wanted to break this up, I could say half would be about right in there. Okay. Ish. So if I know half is 50%, it looks like more than half is shaded. To you, it should look like more than half is shaded. So if more than 50% is shaded, it says write a percent to represent the shaded portion. Okay, the shaded portion must be over 50%, so that knocks out D as my answer. It knocks out B as my answer. Now, that leaves me with A and C. To me, this looks like it's closer to half than it is to be fully. So if I was making an educated guess, I would say that the answer was C, but let's work it out to make sure. Okay, so if you look at your shaded area, we say that this is, let's do the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this square is 5 blocks wide and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 blocks tall. So 5 times 5 is 25. So the whole thing right here is 25 little blocks. Okay, so that's 25. So the total is 25. The shaded region, that is 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's down 5 and it goes over 3. So that's 15 plus the one is 16. So 16 out of the 25 are shaded, okay? Now, the best way to do this, I know that percent literally means per 100. So I want an equivalent fraction that has 100 as my denominator. Okay? So how do I get percent? Percent literally means per 100. That means I want my fraction to have a 100 on the bottom. Can I go from 25 to 100? Yes. What can I multiply by? Well, let's think about our quarters. 25 cents is 1 quarter. How many quarters does it take to make $1? 4. So 25 times 4 is 100. So now 16 times 4 is what? 16 times 4, we could say 6 times 4 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 6, so that's going to be 64. Now, if I have a fraction that's over 100, that is 64%. Do I have an answer choice that matches? Yes, that would be C. Okay? Now, we have number 17. I want to talk about number 17. Okay, number 17, it says identify the numbers that do not belong. Okay. You have 4 percents, fractions, decimals, whatever on the as your answer choices. And it wants the one that does not belong. Okay, so what you're going to have to do is convert them all to the same format. And I think that it's easiest to convert them all to decimals. Okay, so let's start with D. D. If I have 8 over 10, that is 8s in my house. 10 does not go into 8, but it goes into 80. So this decimal right here is 0.8 or 8/10. Okay? Let's look at C. If I have a percent, I'm take my imaginary decimal and move it 2 places to the front. And I get the same thing, huh? Now let's try B. Alright, fraction bar means to divide. 5 doesn't go into 4, but it will go into 40. Okay, 5 times what's 40? That would be 8. Okay, so that looks like it's the same thing. So let me check A. Okay. I have 8%. I'm going to take my imaginary decimal and move it twice. If I add a 0, that is going to be 0.08. Which one is not the same as the others? That would be A. Okay, so if it ever gives you a problem, it says which one's not like the others, which one does not belong, take them and convert them to the same format. You can pick converting them to all fractions. You could turn them all into percents. You could turn them all into decimals. The first thing I go to is decimals, but whatever works for you is what I want you to do, okay?